Do you ever stare at your computer thinking there has to be a better way to do this? I swear I do that like 3 times a day, but you're too scared to say anything because you don't want to be that employee. Whew, that's a tricky one. And on my team, I want you to be that employee, okay? So here's the deal. Some parts of your job might genuinely suck, but pretending that they don't helps absolutely no one. And there's a massive difference between being a chronic complainer and being the entrepreneurial problem solver that your boss should be thinking. And that's why on this episode of Marketing with Purpose, we're talking about how to tell your boss that part of your job really sucks without getting fired, dismissed, or labeled as being difficult. In this episode, we're covering how to figure out if it's actually a problem worth solving or just something that you need to get over. Like you might be having a bad day. Who knows? The different types of bosses and exactly how to approach each one, because the success, my friends, is in the approach. Choosing the right time to speak up and maybe when you should stay quiet. And then what happens after, like whether they say yes, no, or get really weird about it. How do you handle those situations? And honestly, this is a really tricky one, but when the answer might be to just quit and move on to a different job. So for those of you who I haven't met before, I'm your host, Monica Pitts, and joining me today is Stacy, May Create's chief wearer of many hats and a boss lady herself. We hire together, do employee reviews separately, discuss all the challenges that we face as a company, and she manages the account service and billing humans and many clients as well.
Hey friends. So basically what Monica's saying is today that we are going to cover this topic from both sides, what it's like to bring issues to your boss, whether that's your like middle management or upper management, and what it's like when your team brings issues to you as the boss. So just a little fair warning, this isn't permission to complain about every little annoyance because let's be honest, there is something in every person's job that sucks and we just have to suck it up and get over it. But today we want to talk about strategic problem solving so it makes you look more entrepreneurial instead of just being difficult.
Because believe it or not, in some offices, entrepreneurial complaining and problem solving is actually encouraged. And with that, my friends, let's get to business. You're on a mission and you just need more people to know about it. And whether you're brand new to marketing or a seasoned pro, we are all looking for answers to make marketing decisions with purpose. I'm Monica Pitts, a techie, crafty business owner, mom, and aerial dancer who solves communication challenges through technology. This podcast is all about digging in and going digital. I'll share my marketing know-how and business experience from almost 20 years of misadventures. I'll be your backup dancer so you can stop doubting and get moving towards marketing with purpose. So how to tell your boss that part of your job sucks. When I brought this topic up to our design team in our weekly design meeting, they immediately said that some jobs just plain suck. And I think that yes, some design jobs really do suck. Like I've done some of them when I just had to prep open house ads weekly on repeat for the newspaper. That job sucked. Like there was no creativity in it. It was not any fun, right? And there was just not a whole lot that I could do about it other than streamline the process and make templates for myself, right? And it turned out that I'm just not the right fit for that job. I need more freedom. I need to get to solve problems in my job. I'm not just a doer. Okay, so that's cool. And they were right. There are some jobs like that. And we'll discuss some of that in this episode. But the majority of our conversation, we want to focus on the jobs that are pretty darn good. Like jobs that you actually like with just a few pieces that get frustrating. Like not the job that you want to quit yet. It's the job that you're willing to fight to change. And some people view speaking to their boss about the annoying parts of their jobs as conflict. And we've actually done a lot of training at May Create on conflict resolution and how having those tough conversations is part of being a good team. I personally view it as a public service announcement. I know Stacy does too.
For sure. Definitely a public service announcement. Please come talk to us.
Like, in my opinion, and I know that I'm not your boss, but in my opinion, your boss should be thanking you for bringing it to their attention because you're not bothering them, you have the mindset of an entrepreneur, which in most workplaces I feel like should be rewarded. And there's one example that I lean into pretty hard whenever I'm explaining to people that I want them to come to me with these complaints. And the one I always give is we onboarded all of our email marketing to MailChimp, and we had all these automations. And yes, I'm going to throw MailChimp under the bus, but it's not the first episode I've done that in. And I worked through the initial steps. We validated that it was going to be a good program. I handed it all off to Katie, and Katie worked in it for I don't know how many months or years. And then I had to get in one day when Katie wasn't there and do her job. And I was like, this is terrible. It takes 17 steps to do any one thing. And it was just a huge roadblock. I didn't even like the user interface. I was like, Katie, this is terrible. And she's like, I know, it takes forever. And I'm like, oh my God, how have you not told me about this? I have been wasting so much of your time and my money having you work in this system when you could have just been like, I know we vetted it, but it sucks. Let me show you why. And then we could have picked something else, right? And Stacy, I know that you have seen examples of this too.
Yeah, I had a really long time employee that was so incredibly amazing at her job, but she was very much a doer and she never complained about anything. She was always willing to take on another task. And at the time, we were scheduling everything on Google Calendar. I mean, this has been a minute ago, and there were lots of inefficiencies in our process. And ultimately, this employee had a family crisis happening that she was very much in the middle of and had to be there for her family to help out. And she couldn't work as many hours and ultimately ended up leaving. But really, had she complained or like told me that her job was taking forever, I know there are so many things we could have done to make it more efficient. And so in that instance, she was amazing at her job, and I really would have listened and loved if she would have complained a little bit more because she was amazing.
I know. And her leaving actually was, and it was, well, we cried for a while and hung out underneath my desk. But then after that, we were like, we need to make things better. And it was a real swift kick in the pants. And
it was a huge catalyst for change.
Yes.
Like a huge catalyst for change. Maybe one of the biggest Make Create has ever had.
Yeah. And though, in these situations, if they would have just told us, that could have been the catalyst for change. For both of them. And so instead of having somebody leave or me getting in there and doing it myself, I would have loved it if they just would have come to me, right? And so in both of those examples, note that both Stacy and I were talking about a service that we used or part of our process, the tasks of a job, not a person, okay? So if a person is what's making your job suck, that's a whole nother issue, and we would have to tackle that in another conversation. You can't control the other person or how they do their job or how they talk to you. You can only control yourself. Things that I tell my middle school and high school kids, like, you can't control them, you can only control you, right? So in this conversation today, we're talking about taking ownership of the things you can potentially control and make changes around.
So I'm going to give a caveat. You cannot just go to your boss with every single little thing that pisses you off and then call it being an entrepreneur or having an entrepreneurial mindset. You have to take a step back. You have to have a conversation with yourself. Monica and I are huge advocates for like taking ownership of what you do. I think if we were to ever talk about employees that were interesting or have gone, it's usually the ones that take ownership in what they do and even the mistakes that they make that we love and we miss the most. So make sure that you're having a conversation with yourself. Maybe even have a conversation with a coworker who's in the same role as you are. However, be careful with that too. But just use some other people in your life to get a different perspective. Maybe that's a good friend, someone who's removed from the situation, but is really good at coming up with solutions. They would be called an ideator at Make Create. Mm-hmm. So that's an interesting thing. Don't just decide that you're going to go to your boss and say, I don't like this. Make sure that you're planning that conversation just a little bit better. So I like to use some goals to kind of guide that conversation a little bit better. So the first thing is the problem, is it a viable problem that can be solved? Or is it just something that you need to get over? You know, there are things in my job that I don't necessarily love doing, but it's stuff that absolutely has to get done, and it's for the betterment of our company, even though it might not be the most fun task. So some things you just got to get over. But then I always, and you can ask anyone on my team, if you have a problem, come to me with a solution. So the second goal is always identify a solution that can benefit everybody involved in the situation. Because if you come to your boss with a solution and not just a complaint, it is going to make that situation better, and that conversation is going to go a lot better because it's not just you being a complainer, like you've actually thought through it, right? And then the third thing is kind of deciding what you want out of that conversation. So what is going to be the best course of action? What do you think is going to be the best solution? Where are we going to go from here? So I do, in saying that, man, I do get that you may not see solutions, because we do have people on our team who are not ideators, or maybe they don't have enough experience to propose a solution. But often, so Monica and I have hired consultants in the past, and they don't necessarily know every single aspect of our company or what the solution to the problem is that we're facing. But often their job is to bring up all the roadblocks that need to be removed and how to remove the roadblocks so that we can get to the outcome that will benefit everyone. And so that's kind of where you need to be in this situation. If you don't have the solution, okay, what are some changes, or what are the things that are causing the frustration, the annoyance, the problem, the task to take forever? And maybe that is the system that you're using or the process that you're using. But if that's the case, you might want to frame your conversation a little bit differently while still doing some self-reflection and some preparation before going and talking to your boss. So
exactly. You aren't supposed to have always the answers when you go into this conversation. If you have answers, definitely provide them as part of the framework of the conversation. But if you don't have them, the conversation is just going to go differently. It doesn't mean that it shouldn't happen, though. Definitely bring it to someone's attention that could potentially be smart enough to solve the problem. That's okay.
Absolutely. So in moving into this thought of having a conversation for yourself, Monica, I have some questions for you. So what would you suggest if someone is new and they don't understand the system yet? But they're really frustrated, they're annoyed, they are not sure that they can keep doing the job the way that they are doing. What do you suggest to them?
I think that if you are new, you might not understand the whole picture yet. And that's okay, right? When new hires immediately start and they're just trying to adjust our processes, it is a red flag for me. I know it is for Stacy as well. It's kind of like when you hire our clients. They will hire a new marketing director, and then they come in and they decide that they have to overhaul everything. And in the animal world, I feel like they would just be peeing on their territory to show everyone that they're in charge. But the person before you held that role, and they might not have been a total idiot. We need to learn from the steps that they made, live in their shoes for a little while. There was likely a reason why they did things a certain way. It doesn't mean that you always have to do them, but it does mean that if you try walking in their shoes for a little while, you will learn more and actually maybe be able to make an even better suggestion on how you can modify the process moving forward. We have developed and modified our processes over the course of over 20 years. Does that mean that they need improvement still? Yes, absolutely. Things change every single day, right? And sometimes a new person has the exact insight that we need to show us where they need to be modified. However, I do feel like new hires do better when they learn first to work through the process in its entirety, to experience why we do it the way we do it before trying to change it, because then they can see, like Stacy said, why some processes require a bit of discomfort along the way to guard against an entire dumpster fire down the road, right? So voicing complaints about a process you haven't worked through because you perceive it may be uncomfortable right in this second isn't the same as presenting a solution to actual discomfort in a process that you've done over and over again. That does not mean, and I would actually not respect you if you did not ask me questions about the process along the way. Ask why it's done this way instead of saying that sucks, like right away, if that makes sense. Because when you ask me why it's done a certain way, it shows me that you're a thinker and that you're learning about how the company works and that you want to do better, not just that you want to, get territorial and try to change everything, because potentially you can, because we told you that we easily make changes.
That is so 100% true, Monica. So on the account service side of things, we often will set people's email up in a certain strategic way when they start, because it is imperative that people don't miss emails, and which means that you don't get to filter everything out of your email. There's some things, but that's one thing where it's okay, you have to use your email this way until you get know all of the nuances of the process, because different things come in differently, right? But one thing I will say that is a super positive to this is when Brittany started. So Brittany's been with May Create 6 months. I don't know. She maybe been here a month, and she was like, well, why don't we implement a document that's a client checklist? And Caitlin and I looked at each other like we are maybe the stupidest people on the planet, because why did we never think about this? And so Brittany, even though she had only been here a month, had one of the best solutions that's probably helped our process so much this year. So don't be afraid to say stuff. Don't be afraid to be a thinker. Make sure you're asking questions, and also just be careful about your suggestions. You can phrase them in a way that is hey, I might see a hole in this, but I'm not really sure. Mm-hmm. Tell me more, and not really turn your coworkers off that way.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a few minutes, making a sandwich.
Yes, for sure. So, okay. So one thing that I know we do a lot is we see that a client is having a problem, or that a problem came up, and we jump right in thinking it's ready to change. So Monica, if there's something that's uncomfortable, does it really always need to change?
Yeah. Or sometimes I'm just hungry.
Amen,
I just
sister.
need something to complain about today. Maybe it's the 10th or 11th thing that didn't go right today. Because the first 3 things to 7 things, I can be oh, okay, yeah, whatever. Okay. And then there's the tipping point, right? And so just ask yourself, was this the tipping point? Are we just pissed off right now? And that's okay for you to be pissed off right now. You have a right to do that. Go buy yourself a Coca-Cola or a hamburger, or take a walk around the block, scream and the universe for a few moments, and then move on, instead of trying to reinvent a wheel that already spins and works. I think that piece of self-awareness is the key when evaluating change, instead of just wasting time or being bitchy.
It makes me wonder how many people in our complex here think I'm totally insane, because I will call Monica because I'm really frustrated or things aren't going right, and I'll walk around the building
in circles.
And I bet people are and I'm probably not, I'm not a quiet person. Obviously you can tell that, but it's so yeah, go take that walk. Make sure that it's not something that is just an exterior challenge causing that. Mm-hmm. So I think the next question I have is it recurring, or is it just one time? Is this something that is not quite right now, but it's usually okay? Monica, how do you handle those situations?
I think that, like you said earlier, one of our coping mechanisms at May Create is just to jump in and fix it, because we're not adverse to change. And so usually one of us has to pull back and say, has this happened before? And then we have to ask ourselves, like, what is the likelihood of it happening in the future? Like, how many dominoes had to fall into one another to make this actually like collapse, right? And sometimes it's like just a series of seriously unfortunate events and all the planets align and crap just gets busted. And we're like, well, okay. So we don't really need to try to fix it right now. We'll just wait and see if it happens again. So, and sometimes going through that rabbit hole, though, is kind of powerful because when you look through all the things that you feel like you could have done differently to make it better, you realize you already do those things and they're already planned into your process. So it just like reaffirms that it was just a one-time thing. But if the problem is recurring, sorry guys, I'm just going to say that word wrong. Love myself, love you. Recurring. I would start tracking it. And we do this all the time, right? So how long does it take? And be honest with yourself. Like start a timer, write it down on a piece of paper, put it into a spreadsheet, right? What parts take the longest? It's a self-awareness funnel here. What's the most annoying thing about it? Like that self-awareness piece, once again, like when are you the most pissed off when you're doing the task? And then ask yourself, like, how did these things affect the bottom line, right? And when you have some data around it, then you can take it to the boss and be like, it takes me 20 minutes to do this, and I do it 10 times a week. Think about all the other prospecting calls I could be making or following up on or whatever it is if I didn't have to do this kind of thing. Or, yeah. So just evaluating the situation from all angles.
Absolutely. I think another thing that's super important is like, is there a reason why it's done a certain way?
Yeah, exactly. Because that's part of the working through the process at least a few times before deciding that you need to change it. The person in front of you was probably pretty smart and they did it a certain way for a reason. I always like to ask myself, like, I'm upset about this, but if I changed it right now, who else would it impact? Like, why would that process be made that way? Is it just uncomfortable for me? Is it uncomfortable for everyone? If I adjusted it, could it be a win for everyone else too? Because it's not just about me and it's not just about you, right?
And then the other side of it too is like, what changes do you need to ask permission to make? So is it something that you even need to ask your boss or complain to somebody? You're not complaining, you're bringing up great challenges, but do you even need to ask to make a change?
Well, exactly. So we remember the designers were saying some jobs just really suck. And so when I just had to make open house ads, I had templates. I created forms for people to submit the information so that way I got it appropriately. And I didn't have to ask to change those things. Like, who cared about the intake form, right? Who cared about me using a template versus designing it from scratch, right? So I was empowered to do those things. And so you can ask yourself, what would happen if your boss found out that you did it differently? Like, would they even care? Like, what's the worst thing that could happen? Would they fire you, or would they just ask you to do it the old way? Or, I mean, if it doesn't impact anyone else, like you answered the question above, if it doesn't impact anyone else and your boss has no clue how you're doing it, what does it matter if you do it differently, right? And so, for example, we have a communal fridge in the office. And at one point, it was filling up with crappy, disgusting Tupperware. And you couldn't even fit anything else in it. And Kara decided that she was just going to give everybody 4 days to claim what was theirs. And after that, everything was going in the trash. And then she continued that once a month when we had like a really full office full of people. And she's our office manager. She didn't need my permission to do that. I just need, she's in charge of the office. Like, I'm okay. Like, why would I get mad about that, right? She wanted to make our environment better. Thank you, Kara. I didn't have to manage it. I didn't have to spend any activity or energy as it went on in the future. So I don't know. What can you do?
Well, and she's always so good about giving warning. Like, she's like, I'm not washing your dishes, and I'm just going to get rid of the things. But you have 2 or 3 days, you have 4 days, whatever it is. Like, if it's not gone, it's gone. I'm throwing your dish and everything in the trash. Now, we did have the one time that someone did this and they didn't give any warning. They just went in and threw everything away. And it was like literally people's lunch for the day.
That did not go well.
Don't be that person.
That sucked.
It didn't go well at all. Like literally that person ended up digging through the trash because they threw away something that was like valuable to another employee. And so they got to go dumpster diving that day. So don't be that person. No. But yeah, asking, like, this was such a great example of Kara taking like ownership in it and just helping us all out because it was getting pretty nasty.
I do think that those two questions, though, like, is there a reason why it's done this way? And is it something that you need to even ask to change, are really tied together? Because when someone's on vacation and you have to go in and check their email, for example, and it's set up in some convoluted way that you've never seen before, you literally have to learn how to check their email to do their job, right? Mm-hmm. When they do the exact same job that you do. And so that's like a reason, like we check our email this way or have it organized this way for a reason. And it's because you guys all share inboxes a lot of the time, right? So then no, it's not really something that you can just change on your own. You know, I always tell people, I'm like, if I am doing your job while you're out of the office and I can't figure out how to do it because you're not following the process well enough, then I'm going to be mad. Like, sorry. Like, I have to be able
there's
to.
No like easier way to figure out if somebody's doing what they're supposed to be doing than doing their job when they're gone.
Yeah.
So I think the other thing too is like, is it worth it? Is it worth changing? Is it like that big of a deal that you want to rock the boat for?
Yeah, my dad is the dean of a college, and he says all the time, he's like, I'm here to win the war. So what that means is that every decision that he makes is a strategic decision about which battles he's going to fight and which ones he's going to let go. Because he wants to do the things that are going to make the most overall impact for the school. And taking on every single little detail would not push the needle forward for his school. It would just leave him like stuck on the hill with no army.
Yeah, for sure. And then here's another mindset question for you. It's kind of a doozy. Is it actually the job that's the problem?
Some people are just not the right fit. Like, we have some jobs that you have to be a very independent thinker for. And if you are not a good independent thinker and problem solver, if you absolutely hate change, if you are not okay when like stuff just changes randomly out online because Google or whoever deigned it in the interwebs, you are going to hate this job. Like, it just is what it is. And so find another job that doesn't change all the time. Print t-shirts. Like, it's cool. Like, that technology progresses, it's just not progressing as quickly, right? And so, like, for example, I used to do Stacy's job. I hated it. And so, like, when I hired Stacy, I don't even know, 14, 15 years ago, I was so happy
15 years ago
when she started taking over pieces of my job bit by bit that I didn't have to do anymore. And so I would hate doing Stacy's job any day I did it. But Stacy, on the other hand, would probably actually enjoy my job for like a few days or a week. And then she would be like, I am done with this crap. I want to go back to my spreadsheets.
I mean, I had to do it for like 2.5 hours yesterday, or like not Monica's job, but like I had to do tasks like Monica's like for 2.5 hours yesterday. I was like, I'm done with it.
Yeah. So just be honest with yourself. Like, sometimes this task just sucks.
Yeah.
Not for you.
So I think the other thing too is like deciding who is the right person to like start the change. Is that you or is that someone else? So tell me like when somebody might not be the right person to initiate change.
If you're the complainer, or if you are the office clown, like if you're not just not serious about anything, right? Yeah. Like, so if you're the complainer and you just complain all the time about everything from the minute that you walk in the door, and some people are just like that, we try not to hire them. Or if you are, like, if you're just not serious about anything, it's hard to take that person seriously. So, like, for example, as a teenager, I was really a pain in the butt. Just ask my parents. Reflecting on it, I'm like, damn, was it a pain in the butt? Okay.
Call up Deb.
Yeah, call up Deb. She'll tell you. So whenever my brother and I wanted something, we would talk about it, and then he was the delegate. He went and talked to our parents about whatever change or thing that we wanted because we knew how much more likely they were to do it if he asked. Yeah, it's true. We were very strategic about it. Because here's the deal. The goal is to get what you want. And as long as you're playing by the rules, it's fine how you go there, right? It's not the glory of making the change. I don't need to win, me personally. I just want the change to be made. And so I can send Travis in to do it, and the change gets made. So I get what I want. So I win, right? Me being involved in it doesn't matter. I don't know. Pass the ball to the dude that's open. That's how you win.
Pretend that you're playing basketball and maybe you're not the person who should be taking the shot.
Yeah, because there's a dude that's open.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, just in this respecting the chain of command too. So it would be very weird in our group if Brittany came to you and said, I want to change this about the process, and she hadn't come to me first, you know? So it's I think it's just knowing who to talk to, when to talk to them, that kind of thing too. I mean, you're still initiating the change. You're still the person who's starting the ball rolling. It's just that, okay, how do we get it actually done is a super important question to ask yourself. So, and then on the flip side of that, what if your boss says yes, to you or to the person you designated, or, however that worked out, are you really willing to make the change happen? Are you going to push it through to the end?
Yeah. 'Cause there are times where I'm like, man, this really sucks. It needs to be done a different way. But I cannot be that driving force. Not right now. I'm busy. And this is an overhaul, and I don't have time to do it. And so I just need to put it on the future wish list. And then I can just go through this whole conversation that we just talked through and ask myself all these questions all over again and decide if it's actually worth dealing with, right? I know that sounds weird, but sometimes it's it feels so painful at the moment, but it could be because of all these external factors. And, and if I'm not willing to do it myself personally and take on all that extra work, then maybe it's not the time to do it. And I can always reevaluate later.
Yeah. Just because you go with a challenge doesn't mean that that's the highest priority at the moment. And we only have so much bandwidth. Yeah. That's a word we use a lot. Bandwidth to make changes. So timing is important. Are you willing to make the change? That's important too.
Yeah.
So those are the questions that we have for having a conversation with yourself.
I feel like I should repeat them so that, Can I repeat them really fast?
Absolutely. Go for it.
So in your conversation with yourself, you ask yourself, am I new? And do I understand the system in its entirety yet? Does it really need to change? Is it recurring or just an instance? Is there a reason why it's done that way? Is it something that I even need to ask for change, or am I just looking for approval? Is it worth rocking the boat for? Is it actually the job? Is it just not the job for me? Am I the right person to initiate the change? And if the boss says yes, am I willing to take the responsibility to facilitate the change right now?
Yeah.
So after you have
Make sure you're doing that self-evaluation for sure.
Yes. That's where we start, with self-evaluation, my friends.
Yeah. Okay. So moving on to our next topic, we mentioned having a conversation with a coworker. So, just remember, this is not you going home and talking to your husband.
No.
This is not just a griping session for you to air dirty laundry or whatever. Mm-hmm. This is an adult conversation. You are really trying to problem solve and discover the challenges and see if they are accurate and worth changing. It is not an emotion-filled conversation.
No.
In any way, shape, or form.
Yes.
you're going to stay adult. And when we mean that, we mean the adult ego state.
Yes.
So Monica, tell us a little bit about about going into a conversation, staying adult.
I have had a lot of conversations with my children about this, actually, because they are emotionally charged teenage female girls. Yes. Okay. So there's lots of emotions flying around our house. You got to duck in the morning or you're going to get hit in the face with an emotion. And so I continually speak to them about ego states, which are really just modes or mind spaces, or even communication patterns that we slip into based on how we learn to think, feel, and react. And they're pre-programmed based on your past experiences. So they're very, very easy to slip into if you're not aware of where you're going with it, right? You've all had someone say something to you and then you immediately feel a rush of emotion. I physically feel it. Sometimes I see it. I see red. There is so much emotion coming out, right? And so there's many different ego states, but the one that we want to go into this conversation with is the adult ego state, because the adult ego state is level-headed and emotion-free. And I always tell the girls, if you want your sister to do something for you, you got to treat her like an adult. You got to go in with an emotion-free proposition. You need to focus on facts and logic and what's true now instead of reacting to any past experiences or emotions. Like, we're not yelling at her because she left her towel on the floor again. You want to borrow the shoes? You go in and ask about the shoes in a non-emotional way, right? Because your boss's office is not like a drama-filled WWE production, okay? And it's also not a teenage girl's bedroom. It's a business setting, and in a business setting, one of the things that we say around our office is the first person to go emotional loses the upper hand. So if you stay adult and you stay focused, what usually happens is the other person comes back to adult with you. So they'll get all emotional, but then they'll come right back to the adult ego state with you and hang out with you if that's where you stay. So adult ego state. Do not be a teenage girl.
Great advice. So, okay, now we're going to move into some of the questions that you should probably ask yourself. You're asking your coworker. And so the first question is really like, do they have the same frustration that you have?
Yeah.
Tell us about that, Monica.
They just might be doing the task a different way, and you might not know like this little trick or something. And so, or your interpretation of the process might be incorrect. And yeah, I can't tell you, like, I'll be frustrated about something. I'll put it in Slack. Tyler will be like, oh, there's a keyboard shortcut for that. Or all you have to do is click on these 3 things and it'll select everything that's the same color. And I'm like, well, aren't I stupid? So I just didn't know.
Well, and a lot of times they've had had experience in a different way. I don't want to say more experience, but experience in a different way that has helped them evolve into doing something a little bit differently. Yeah. So they may have the same frustration or they may not. So, so if they do it the same way that you do it and it is frustrating, do they know why the task is done that way? So asking them, what's the reasoning behind this? We're both frustrated. Why are we doing it like this?
Yeah. And that's just going back to the earlier question. Together, you guys would examine, because 2 minds are usually better than 1. Who else is this impacting? Is there another way that you could approach the task that might benefit both you and others, or at least not impact others negatively? It's just nice to put your heads together and see if there's like a positive way that you can do it.
Absolutely. Well, and another question to ask them is like, how do they think that the boss will react to this solution?
Yeah. And again, this is
when you present it.
This is not an outpouring of emotion. You are not like, this isn't a sitcom. It's not a drama. But you have to know what might happen, right? In order to go in and be prepared to have a conversation about something you really want, you have to know who you're talking to and what potential reactions they might have. So that way you can plan how you might handle those reactions to get the desired outcome, right? Something you talk about in sales all the time, and we talk about with our clients when we plan out the text for their websites. Like, what are the things that people are going to complain about? Like, how do we handle that, right?
Well, and it's important to like talk about the objections that people might have too.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure.
And I swear so this is going to sound funny, but not funny all at the same time. If your coworker isn't there, if you don't have a friend you can bounce ideas off of, you can ask these questions to ChatGPT. I do it all the time when I'm writing website text because I don't always know. I'm like, how would a contractor react if I put this information up there? Would it be too much? Would I be talking down to them? Do they already understand these terms? Can I say it like this? And ChatGPT is like, actually, you're being great. Or sometimes it tells me I'm being condescending. And I didn't even know, right? So you can, yeah. Use that.
Just remember to use your real intelligence with your artificial intelligence.
Yes, exactly.
In that. So, yeah, you can absolutely pretend that ChatGPT is your like consultant friend. Have a conversation with them. So, I do think another like really great question to ask your coworker is if they have any alternatives or if they can see any alternatives in the situation.
Yeah. And so, we're talking about talking to the coworker. You can also then move on to talking to a friend about this kind of stuff. And I know that like my best friend, Carrie, and I, we run together twice a week and we talk about her work challenges. She works in a hospital. She does surgery on people. I don't know anything about that. I build web pages.
Very different than what we do.
And she doesn't build web pages, but we talk about each other's challenges and then we come up with solutions. Heck, she was trying to decide if she wanted to be the head track coach at the school. And we were like, well, let's think through it all. What are the challenges that we're going to see? What are alternatives? What would happen if you didn't take this head track coach like job? Is there some other way that you could be part of the team? Anyway, so I think that just having the outside input is powerful, even if they're not fully versed in what you do.
Well, because they may perceive conflict where you don't perceive conflict because you're approaching your boss about change. Like, maybe that's a great question to ask them. What objections do they think that your boss might have?
Yes. And if you're having a conversation with your friend or your husband or significant other in a safe space, that's the time to vent for a little while and then settle back into adult mode. So that way you can have that zero emotion problem solving conversation to get to some solutions that you might not have seen otherwise, right?
Yeah. Venting at work should be reserved for, man, I have so many meetings today. I'm going to have to switch between so many different like mindsets. It should not be, oh my gosh, did you see what she did today?
Yeah.
So frustrated with her. That's for home. Like if you really need to have that like toxic interaction, like don't do it at work. It's going to shoot yourself in the foot for sure.
Yeah. So the first step in deciding how you're going to tell your boss that part of your job sucks is all of this discovery. And I know it sounds like we've spent a lot of time in discovery, my friends. But this really like sets the stage for the conversation that you will have with your boss. Because you now should have uncovered all of the objections, the reasons, and the alternatives that you could potentially propose. And asking yourself these questions will allow you to really think through them and put together like your pitch. Like ultimately that's what it is. It's like a pitch, right? So as you approach your boss, I like to think about it like a sales meeting, not a bitch session, right? We've talked about that so many times. It's an opportunity for you to enhance your workplace and build rapport really with your boss. So that will only happen if you can show them what a great problem solver and a communicator you are. So your goal is to arrive with a solution or multiple solutions and then present them in a way that your audience will best receive them. This is the same thing that teachers do. It's the same thing that marketers do. It's the same thing that salespeople do. They all do this. And you are all three of those things. You are educating your boss about a problem that they might not even be aware exists. You are going to market your solution to them and then hopefully sell and close the deal. That's what you're all three things, right? So I think this all begins with picking the right time. And so like what we talked about with our examples earlier, had they come to us at the right time, then we would have been able to start solving the problem years before we sat underneath the desk and cried, right? So the first step for timing is to evaluate your boss, like an honest assessment of your boss.
Like you got to know them.
Yeah, not an emotional assessment, but an honest assessment. Okay, and so as we were trying to think of how to explain the different types of bosses, you have to understand that Stacy and I are not really movie watcher, TV watcher people, but we wanted you to have people to latch on to.
We had to pull our office because we don't know enough characters on TV shows to give you the picture that we wanted to give you.
So I feel like there's a few different types of bosses. You have a data-driven boss. Stacy is a data-driven boss.
For sure.
If someone comes to you with a spreadsheet, you're like, yeah. In some ways, I'm a data-driven boss. If you come, like, Stacy and I will come up with an idea to solve a problem, and I'll be like, can you make a spreadsheet on that? And she's like, I have one already.
I got this. Let me pull it up for you. I'll show you the numbers.
So when you go to talk to your data-driven boss, bring your metrics, show the real numbers, have a spreadsheet ready. No, I'm not even kidding. Bring a spreadsheet. And examples of data-driven bosses, Stacy, who were they? Who did ChatGPT say they were?
Captain Raymond Holt from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. He needs everything to be properly documented, structured. He needs to have all the evidence. If you bring the statistics, he's going to listen. And if you bring him feelings, and you'll get a lecture about proper procedure. So definitely important to stay adult with that guy.
And then we have the big picture boss. Okay, so for the big picture boss, you need to stay big picture. Probably don't bring the spreadsheet because I don't even, like, it might turn them off, quite frankly. Like, watch them.
Bring a couple key facts.
Yes.
Not every detail.
And so with them, you want to connect it to the team and company goals, show how it impacts your broader objectives, talk strategy, not daily annoyances. You don't have to give them specific examples, like 14 specific examples. You can offer it to them, but I would not make that part of my script.
Yeah. So an example of this one is Leslie from Parks and Recreation. So with her, everything connects to the larger mission of making Pawnee better. And so if you show her your idea that helps the team, helps the community, helps the vision, man, she's going to be all in.
You have some bosses that are just fix-it bosses. I am actually in most instances, I am this woman, okay? I think that you should just do it and fix it. If you find that it's not going to negatively impact anybody else, I think you should just do it and fix it. Come to me with your solutions. If they're already tested, that's even better. You usually don't have to ask me for permission. You can ask for forgiveness if you screw it up. But if you ask me too much for permission, I'm actually annoyed with you. That's where I'm at with that.
Yeah. There's certain things I ask Monica for, and oftentimes even between bouncing stuff back and forth between us, like we're just making sure it's a good idea, not necessarily asking permission, but definitely not like all like where you want to keep the coffee in the office is not a Monica question.
Don't care.
She does not care. Mm-mm. As long as she knows where it's at, it's all good.
It just has to be in a logical spot where if I dig for it, I can find it.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so then last but not least, we have the defensive boss. I had one of these at a bar that I worked for back in my 20s, and he was volatile. He did not like any suggestion. It was like a threat to his authority if you made a suggestion, like, oh my goodness. So just be careful. They're going to take some of your suggestions as criticism potentially. So Make sure that you start with what's working. Give them credit for what is good. Make sure that they hear that you find good in the things that they do. And my mom does this to my dad all the time. She makes him think that it's his idea, like genuinely. Do that for a defensive boss. Make him think that it was his idea or her idea.
Yeah. Absolutely. So an example of this one is Logan Roy from Succession. So Logan is volatile. He takes suggestions as threats to his authority. Oh my gosh. So just tread really carefully if this is your boss. You might just need a new job. I don't know. Like, they're not going to be the person who's going to let you make the job your own for sure.
Okay, so once you have assessed your boss type, right, whether they are the data-driven boss, the big picture boss, the relationship-focused boss, the just fix-it boss, or the defensive boss, then you need to plan the right moment to have the conversation. Stacy, when should I not have this conversation?
When you screwed something up this week. Don't do it right after you mess something up. You just look like you're like defending your mistakes. Not a good look. If timing is so important. So if it is like the most busy season or during a crisis, don't bring up big change.
No.
Like, it's not the right time. Like, have a like follow-up meeting if there's something happening, like how you can fix this in the future, but in the moment is probably not it. So when your boss is already dealing with big issues or is super stressed. So my team, so we have a team member who is going to be on maternity leave, basically first quarter of 2026. And our entire team has been like pushing to make sure that we have like all the little like extra things done before then. And the rest of our team is going to know that we're probably not going to make a lot of changes on the account service side in first quarter. So we're making big changes now and like pushing forward. So just know when like stuff is already stressful. Oh, your first week on the job.
We covered that.
You don't know enough yet to complain. Honestly, probably at that point, it's that you're overwhelmed or you don't know how to keep track of information. And that is a change that you need to make personally in how you document things and how you're doing things. I know when I first started, so granted, this has been like 15 years ago, my predecessor was so good at her job, but she could keep everything in her head down to like which of the 10 websites had been billed their first payment, their second payment, their third payment. Like,
yes.
I knew I was not that person. I knew I couldn't do that, but that was a me process change. Like, that was just me documenting it. It wasn't a change that was going to affect the rest of the company. So knowing if it's your first week on the job, it's probably a you documenting things correctly so that you can remember it. And then I think the other thing is like it just not springing things on people. So if it's a really big change that you're talking about making, like you need to make an appointment and you need to follow the proper channels. So lots of times to not have that conversation.
Absolutely. And then, so framing it, we talked about this earlier, and we said that we were going to make a sandwich. I call it a constructive criticism sandwich. I use it all the time in coaching and with my kids. So I tell them what's working well, I explain what's not working, and then I tell them how I propose that they make it better. So you've got a compliment, the constructive criticism, and then you fluff them up. And you let them know it can be better, right? So there's the positives. All the carbs, those are the positives. As you use this sandwich method, stay adult, stay positive, and keep focused. We want to start and maintain that adult ego state throughout the conversation, even when you're faced with objections. If you remain calm and focused and unemotional, then your boss is very highly likely to do the same. So again, we're going to start with what works. We don't lead with the complaints, right? And we frame this as an opportunity, not a grievance. So you're going to say things like, I've noticed. You will not say, you always, because we are not placing a personnel complaint. It's a process adjustment. So when you can, use the first person plural we. as a team, we've noticed, because you're there as a representative of your team. It's not just about you, it's about making things better and more efficient and easier for the team. So for example, you might say, during our project management meetings, I noticed we kept having the same conversation about X over the past few months. That got me thinking. So I spoke with the other project managers and discovered why. And I'd like to propose a few solutions that could make the process go smoother and help us reach our goals, right? So you would start by saying, hey, there's this really great part of our process that works really, really well. And then I noticed this thing during the meeting. And so we're thinking that maybe we could do this to make it better. And that, my friend, is the sandwich method in action. Because we're ending with solutions, okay? And realize that you don't just have to have one solution, and you might not even be the person who needs to make the decision about the solution, right? So you could arrive with multiple solutions. You can show that you've just thought this all the way through from front to back. Here might be challenges that you might face in any of the given solutions. You definitely want to illustrate how those solutions are going to work towards company goals. And if they propose another solution as you're in this conversation that doesn't meet the goals, make sure that you understand those goals, because it might be that the goals have changed, and so that's why their solution is better implemented than yours. As you're proposing solutions, make sure that you address who else it impacts, and you've thought this through in all your conversations, so you know this by now. So you're explaining the why behind your proposal, and explain how you and your team, if they're involved, are willing to work to make the solution come to fruition, right? Because you're not just placing it on your boss's desk like, hey, here's something else I want you to do. You are actually saying, hey, we have this challenge, we want to propose a solution, and we're willing to see this solution through and make it happen. You are way more likely to get what you want then. Because not only are you sharing this problem-solving mindset that you have by presenting the problem and the solution, you're taking ownership over the outcome. And that's what businesses need. They need people who are willing to work in this business as if it's their own and put that energy into it to get the right outcome and have the best outcomes for both the team and the company as a whole. Okay, so you had the conversation with your boss. All right. So what happens? What happens, right? Did they say yes? Did they say no? Let's talk about if they say no. If they say no, we've been saying this the whole time, we need to stay adult, right? If you want to keep your job, let's stay adult, right, Stacy?
Yep.
So
and sometimes a no is a not right now. Sometimes it's just not the right timing. So
that's one.
Make sure that you accept it gracefully. It's not that they don't care about you. It's not that they don't care about the situation. And if they don't, you need to get a new job. Like if that's truly the thing. But I don't think I've ever once gone to Monica with a real concern. Now I do vent to Monica just because we are in that, like that is our relationship. But if, make sure that you are seeing it for really what it is.
Yeah. And like Stacy said, you can clarify, like if they say no, then you can be like, is that a no never or a not right now? I'm not trying to be pushy. That's okay. Like, I just want to make sure that I should never bring this up to you again, or if there's a door that's like could be partially open someplace because you're just really busy right now, right? Yeah. And in a sales conversation, Stacy, what would you ask them if they said no in the sales conversation?
I would often ask them what they need from me in order to reconsider. So what is the thing that is making the answer no? And how can I approach that or fix that, or even just no for a future time that I'm asking for change?
And then as you are like, you got the no, and I feel like then you just need to be aware of when you need to stop pushing too, because you're going to be like, hey, what do you need to reconsider? And they say it doesn't matter. Like the answer is just no, it doesn't fit our core values, whatever it is. Then you just need to not push anymore and just move on to something else. I've had employees who would be like, well, this is the solution to this problem. And I'm like, it's actually not. Like we've done it before and it didn't work then, and I don't want to do it again. I don't have the time to do it. It's just no. And they would be like, no, we should do it. And I'm like, you need to stop please stop, because it's done. We had this conversation. The answer was no, I'm sorry. But it's for a reason, right?
Right.
Now, this has not happened in our company, but it has happened where my husband works, because he works at a multi-thousand person company, right? If they say no,
Yeah.
should you throw someone under the team, under the bus to get what you want?
You should be real stinking careful. That's all I'm having to say is actually, I mean, this kind of did happen one time and it did not go very well for the person who did that. And they no longer work here anymore. So if that tells you about being careful about throwing your team members under the bus to get what you want, you should probably not do that.
Yeah. You
might feel like citing another employee's actions or activities as like fact for your case is good. It is not. Do not open a can of worms. It's not your can to open.
Yeah, because the thing is that you don't know what your boss knows. Your boss may very well know exactly what Bob is doing. They may know Bob's exact situation, and they may not be at liberty to share it with you. And they also may not be able to make an exception for Bob because of the way that the company structure is, other than ignoring Bob's behavior and allowing Bob to do what he's doing. And if you find out that Bob gets to do this thing because of this certain situation, and you put Bob's job in jeopardy, how you will feel? That doesn't feel very good, does it? No. I mean, I do think that you should leave that case closed and don't cite other employees like hardly ever. But if after the conversation you get the answer that you think would impact Bob, go to Bob and be like, hey, be careful, man, because this is what I just heard from the boss. And I think that's an okay conversation to have. But it can put people in a bad
so much
spot.
Better. I think it's just so much better to focus on what you can do to make it better rather than like throwing somebody else under the bus. Like, you've done this discovery process. Like, you have probably uncovered some things that you can implement without approval to make it better. So, I mean, it could literally be as simple as like Monica said in her like previous position, she created an email form to get the information accurately in the first time. Like, your boss isn't going to fault you for making it more efficient. Like, focus on the things that you can do that don't impact other people.
And if this really is a hill that you're willing to die on and the answer really is no, not ever, then you can go find another job. I don't want to be like that, but it's like true, you know? If it is directly conflicting with your core values as a person and it's going to make you unhappy to work there because they won't change this thing, then it's okay. Like, there's so many other places out there for you.
It doesn't even make them like a bad company or bad. Like, I mean, you can have whatever feelings you have when leaving someplace, but just because someone said no to you, like, it just means that you're not the right fit or they're not the right fit for you. Like, it doesn't have to be this big, like, drama filled crap, if you will.
So then if they say yes, I feel like it's like any other sales situation, right? So they said yes. What do I do now, Stacy?
Get clear. Oh, I love get clear. I say this all the time. Monica says this all the time. So just make sure that you know what the timeline is for implementing and what the expectations are for you and for other people to get the change like rolling.
Yeah.
Definitely like come back with the solution and the results to make sure that, like, to show that your boss that solution actually worked or didn't work. I mean, it's okay to say like, hey, I know I proposed this. It didn't work the way that I thought it was. So just taking ownership of that and then making sure that you are giving credit where credit's due. So I'm not ever going to go take credit for something that Caitlin implemented, you know? So just make sure that you're building your team up that way.
I actually quit a job because the boss continually said that everyone else's ideas and work were his in the client meetings. And I'm like, dude, that was not your idea. That was Brandon's idea. He did that. And I was like so offended. Like, don't do that. Don't be that dude. Okay, so we covered yes, we covered no, and now we need to talk a little bit about what to do if it gets weird, right? Maybe you have a defensive boss, maybe your boss goes emotional on you. Remember what we talked about earlier. We need to stay adult. We need to stay in the adult ego state. The first person to go emotional loses, okay? So you can't excuse yourself. You can be like, I'm sorry, it seems like this is a bad time for you. I feel like maybe we should discontinue this conversation and pick it up again later if you're okay with that. And then you can get up and you can leave. Like, it's okay.
For sure.
Just make sure you stay adult even as you excuse yourself. And if you really do have a defensive boss, practice it. I'm serious. Practice it. Write it down. Say it record it in a voice memo in your phone, play it back to yourself, say it to your friend or your husband. Make sure you're coming across as adult and you have a graceful exit strategy for the conversation that you have planned out if you have a defensive boss, because that's okay. We just got to plan for it. And because we don't want to burn our bridges if you want to keep your job. And we want to choose the hill that we're willing to die on, not get emotional and accidentally burn ourselves down in the middle of the conversation.
Yeah, let's not do that.
Yes. Okay, so from there, the reality check. Things are not going to change immediately at all. It could take weeks. It could take months. It could even take years to implement process changes, as you know, in a big company. So you had to think through the thoughts already at the beginning as to whether you were willing to be part of the effort or not. And so you decided you wanted to be part of the effort. So volunteer to take the effort to change and change what you can. Now, if you went to your boss and they were gross and it was a terrible conversation and they're acting like they want to punish you because you made a suggestion for an improvement, or if you talk to your coworkers and multiple people have tried to change this and failed and it makes your life miserable, or if what you're facing is actually a symptom of deeper cultural problems and you're like fighting against a whole company core values and not just a process, then I think that's a red flag. I think it's just not the right place for you, and that's okay. And sometimes the answer is that it sucks and it just won't change. And we talked about that earlier too. So you have to decide, like, can you live with this? Because there's things that we do every day at May Create that we've just decided, like, these are part of the process. We know we don't love it, but we're going to do it because it solves problems for future us. And that's what we want to have, right? And if you aren't willing to do it, then you just need to start looking for a better fit for you that's going to work even better. So there you have it. How to tell your boss that part of your job sucks without actually getting fired. You got to know yourself, have that self-discovery and those conversations with yourself, your coworkers, and your friends. Know your boss. Pick your timing. And for the love of all that's holy, arrive with some solutions. If you can, okay? Arrive with solutions. And as we discussed, I know that not every boss will thank you for being entrepreneurial, but the good ones will actually appreciate that you care enough about your work to make it better. And if they don't, then that's probably the information that you needed anyway. And speaking of things that suck at work, our next episode is back to tech again with tips and tricks to stop website spam. You know, those lovely form submissions, selling you SEO services or fake job applications. All those I want to buy your business messages clogging up your inbox at 3 a.m. Love those. They suck. But here's the deal. Your spam from your website isn't just annoying, although it absolutely is annoying. It's costing you time and it's making you miss real inquiries that are buried in the garbage, and it's tanking your website's performance a lot of the time too. And sometimes it even puts your website at risk. So in our next episode, we're going to bring back our expert, Rebecca, to explain exactly how to fix it and stop it from happening in the first place, because you've got actual work to do, and sorting through 47 spam submissions about crypto investments is not it. So subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss it. Thanks again for being with us today and listening. And until next time, go forth and market with purpose.